Hello and welcome to RCTV. We're here with Mark Brennan, CEO and co-chairman of Cerrado Gold. Thank you for joining us. It's been a while, but here we are for an in-person PDAC in Toronto. For those new to the Cerrado story, this is a company that's an emerging mid-tier gold producer focused on projects in South America. It's operating Minera Don Nicolas mine in Argentina, as well as its development stage Monte do Carmo project in Brazil, are both high-grade gold projects with significant optimization, expansion, and exploration potential. Mark, thank you for joining us today. What have you been most excited to see and do at PDAC this year?
Well, it's good to see people like you who I meet for the first time in person as opposed to virtually. But no, it was really wonderful to have people in from out of town, and we caught up with a lot of investors, people who were interested in the story. So it was a really good show. It was really good show for us.
Great. And for those that don't know about Cerrado Gold, what would you want a new investor to know right away?
I think that the thing to understand is that basically we're builders, and we're building a project that we believe will be the cheapest cost producer of gold in the world. And not just a small amount, 150,000 ounces a year for the first 5 years of production, starting in 24, which will generate a lot of cash. But as you mentioned, both projects that we have, particularly Monte do Carmo, are very much exploration and discovery projects. So we have a lot of upside. We're not seeing these as old assets that are being regurgitated. They're actually brand new assets with a great growth profile in front of them. And we're cheap. On a relative basis, our price, our NAV, which is a metric I really look at, we're trading at a substantial discount to our peer group.
Great. And tell us a little bit about your background. How did you get started in the industry?
I had a circuitous route. Started my investment banking career in London, England. Ended up working for a group called First Marathon and running the office there with a colleague of mine. And basically, we got heavily involved in the mining sector, and I decided to move back to Canada, get my feet wet, and go to move with operational companies directly. So. I think I very much enjoy seeing the development of stories that are nascent into build projects.
Great. And if you could describe kind of the industry now, how has it evolved from when you first got started?
It's somewhat similar. I mean, you still have a fair number of the majors as we had. I started in the mid '80s, and so it hasn't started. Not too much change. What really changes is how the companies are actually promoted and how they're actually exposed to the investment community. It's a lot different. That essence has changed dramatically. But otherwise, I think the industry, we're being very conscientious on the green side as a developing companies and as a group of companies, but I think generally we're still doing the same thing, digging stuff out of the ground as cheaply as possible, as best we can.
Great. Right. And focusing a little on the Cerrado story, can you give us a bit of an update on how the feasibility study for Monte do Carmo is progressing and what insights you've gathered so far?
Sure. As you mentioned, Monte do Carmo in Brazil is really where we see the greatest value in the short term. And what we're looking at is following the PA that we published in the fall of last year, where we had an exceptional 617 million NPV and 95% IRR after tax, which is something I've never seen in my career. So what we're doing now is we're completing the feasibility probably by the end of the first quarter. And basically, we're doing the infill drilling, bringing our inferred resources into the measured indicated category. We're completing the metallurgical work, getting the mine plan in place. However, we're pretty confident that the PA that we did was a pretty good quality. So if anything, our objectives are to beat the numbers that we had in the PA, which we're pretty comfortable with, which we think will be a pretty spectacular feat, because basically, as you may recall, we're looking at producing all-in sustaining costs of $431. The capex, we had 125 million in capex, which included 25 million of contingency. So it's a pretty special project. So we're looking to extend the mine life, improving NPV, hopefully get that 95% IRR up a little bit.
And looking on the exploration side in Brazil, you recently started drilling a new target, Gogo de Onça. Can you tell us more about this target and what you're starting to see there?
Yeah, the interesting thing about the Brazil is that we've got a 7-kilometer trend, which kind of goes around a horn a little bit. And basically what this is a contact between felsic volcanics and the granite. And really within that contact is where we find the greatest deposition of gold. And so generally, we right now on the 1.3 million ounces we have today, it's basically on 3 deposits that are each about 200 meters long. So the thing that we need to do is on that 7-kilometer stretch is find all these different 200-meter kind of contact points that are good. So Gogo de Onça is about 400 meters north of Cerrado, and basically it looks identical. The reality is that we've probably put in at this point about 8 holes. Lots of visible gold, and so, but probably only in the region, I would think, at this point of maybe 1,000, 1,500 meters. So it's still very, very early in its discovery phase. But at the same point, as we put out in a press release, we're very confident to call it a discovery because it does have numerous hits of gold. Now the question is, how big can we build that? So we're optimistic. We're optimistic. We've got a number of other targets as well, but it's looking good. We're just to reiterate, we're in a very early stage of exploration. We have 7 rigs on the property right now. They'll work on the infill drilling until June, and then we push those rigs into exploration. So the back end of the year should be a good one for us in terms of expanding the resource.
Great. And what other satellite targets at Monte de Carmo are emerging, I guess, to be high
we have
priority?
probably over to the west. We have Baru, we have Fartura. Baru is actually just on the other side of the valley, so it looks very prospective. Baru is and Fartura, likewise a little bit to the west, but to the south. Looks very similar. We just need to find the deposition of the gold. It could be at different depths. We're finding different depths of mineralization. We have the whole the southeast kind of contact point. So there's lots of bit 3 to the north. There are probably 10 or 15 good targets, but we're focusing right now on 5, which are again the Cerrado, Gogo de Onça, Baru, Fartura, and Capital right now.
Great. And shifting focus now to Argentina, what production and operating kind of cost guidance do you have for 2022?
This year is actually going to be a year of expanding our resource. We acquired the project in March of 2020. At the time, we anticipated a 9 to 12 month turnaround in terms of restructuring. Due to COVID, it took us about 18 months. As of the 4th quarter of last year, we feel comfortable that the turnaround is now complete. And we took production from when we acquired it of 23,000 ounces. Last year we were 43,000 ounces. This year again is really a year to consolidate and grow the asset base, which is the resource. But we'll do about 50,000 ounces. We've given guidance at around $1,200, depending on inflation and the labor costs that we're seeing, which we're seeing a little bit of an escalation. But when we acquired the project, our thesis was 8 or 9 years at 50,000 ounces. We're seeing already some good growth, as you've seen announced. We're looking for 70,000 ounces next year. We're looking for 24 to grow that to 90,000 ounces. So we're looking at some pretty substantial growth, generating somewhere in the region of 20, 30 million bucks this year. Next year, hopefully, with the expansion, 40, and the year following about 50 million of free cash.
Great. And following up on that, any update on adding that heap leach component to the
Yeah,
mine?
we're progressing with that. Our expectation is that we'll have the leach pads ready to go in the 1st quarter of next year, and we're just kind of completing the plan and the studies, and we'll have those out to the market shortly. But the anticipation is again, first pour probably late this year, early next year, first feed into the pads late this year, 1st quarter next year, and then basically first pour probably in March. But we're pretty optimistic, and we think we've got a really good, nice rate of return on the leach facility.
Great. Oh, and what other growth opportunities do you see available for the project in Argentina?
Well, we own 366,000 hectares. I mean, it's a huge project, and so the reality is that it's a very, very substantial landmass with many different depositions and areas with geological interest. And the reality is that we're still very much we're focused on 2 areas at the moment for our production. But the reality is that there's so much for us to really go out and explore. And so what we've been doing is prioritizing our targets, and hopefully we'll have that. We'll have a good resource growth coming in the next little while. We just announced about a month ago, the exploration at Michelle. Michelle actually borders Cerro Vanguardia. Cerro Vanguardia has produced about 8.5 million ounces to date. So it's a good sized deposit. And on the other side, we're sitting next door to Yamana, the ex-Yamana Cerro Moro project, which is producing about 250,000 ounces a year today. So we're in a really nice, prolific gold district, and we've got the largest land position of anybody in that district. And so there's lots and lots of areas that we're looking at.
Great. And look at the personnel side in the company. Can you give us some information on the team and how the team came together for
Sure.
the company?
Well, the team's been working together for about 20 years or so. As I mentioned to you, we are builders. We like to build projects. We like to get involved in projects that will go to fruition. We had a lot of success with a good part of our team. We're part of the founders of the Desert Sun, which became Yamana's Jacobina project, which has been a tremendous success. Then we went and started Largo Resources, which was also a tremendous success. And then we came together for this project in 2018. So basically, we've got a good crew of guys, again, who've worked together, very strong technically. We've got a tremendous depth on a technical basis, really good experience in Latin America, Brazil, Argentina. And on top of that, I think we've just got a full complement of really strong individuals. So we're really thrilled with and we have fun and we work hard. So it's a good combination.
Great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks again for joining us today, Mark.
Thank you very much, team, for having me. Appreciate it.
And thank you, everyone, for listening in today. We hope you had a great PDAC, and we look forward to chatting with you next time.